Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to this learning experience brought to you by AWS and Accenture. My name is Cody, and welcome back to Techstrong Learning. We have an exciting panel ahead, but before we dive into things, I have just a couple of notes I'd like to review with you. First of all, we are recording today's session. So if you miss any of our discussion, if you'd like to watch again at a later point in time, or of course, if you'd like to share with your team, you will be receiving an email shortly after we conclude that will include a link to the recording of our session today. Now, if you'd like to be a part of our conversation, there are a couple of ways to do so. The first option is also the easiest option. It is our chat tab on the right side of your screen. Whenever you find that chat tab, I'd like you to let us know from where in the world you are joining from today. Now, if you do have any specific questions, we do ask that you send those to the Q&A tab on the right side of the chat section. As sending your chats to the Q&A help us keep track of all of the questions that come in, and any questions that we are unable to address today, we'll be sure to send over to our speakers for a post-webinar response. Additionally, if you look at the handout section, you'll find that there is a link to part 2 of our conversation, which is going to be held on December 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern, so you will not want to miss part 2 if you are here for part 1. So our topic today is generative AI, why and how for telcos. I'm joined today by Davide Bellini, Managing Director at Accenture, Ross McWalter, Head of Telecom Applications at AWS, Mohan Bhaskaran, Principal Partner Development Manager at AWS, and of course we have our very own Mitchell Ashley, CTO of Techstrong Group and GM of Techstrong Research. So thank you to our entire panel for joining us today. Mitch, I'm going to pass on over to you to get us started.
Well, thank you very much, Cody. Appreciate the getting things kicked off here. I want to start with some introductions. Our topic today is generative AI, the how and why for telcos, and we've got some great experts in the field of both telecommunications, generative AI, and working with companies to help them succeed in these domains. Let's start with some introductions, though. First, David, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. I'm based in Milan. My name is Davide Bellini, and in Accenture, I lead our data and AI practice globally for communication, media, and technology industry, which includes all the communication service provider, all the software and platform company, and also the high-tech consumer electronic and network equipment provider operator. I've been working for Accenture for 24 years, always in comms industry, so that's my bread and butter, and always on data-related topics, right? So from data warehouse to analytics, big data, and now this exciting wave of AI.
That's a lot of continuity at time in telecommunications, so I'm sure that's extremely valuable. Thank you, David. Ross, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi there. My name is Ross McWalter, based out of Seattle, and I'm part of AWS's telecom industry business unit. And within that group, I lead a team focused on data, AI, ML, and customer experience. And we also cover contact center in that space. I've been with AWS almost 7 years, and within the industry, we cover, very similar to Davide, all of the telcos, communication service providers, anything in that domain, really. So happy to be here. Good to meet you all.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mohan, last but not least.
Thanks, Mitch. Pleasure to be here. My name is Mohan Bhaskaran. I'm based out in Seattle. I lead our comms, media, high-tech, aerospace, defense, contracting intersection between Accenture and AWS. Work very closely with Davide and Ross. I've been in AWS for a little over or just short of 6 years. And throughout the journey, we've both our organization have come together in a very meaningful way to develop solutions and offerings for our operators. And we're excited to be doing the same in the Gen AI space.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to be diving into generative AI, specific to the telco industry. Just for folks that may not know, there's a partnership between AWS and Accenture. And you were the team's going to focus on the telecommunications industry. Who wants to kind of tell us a little bit about that partnership and maybe a little bit about what each partner brings to the table? in particular around generative AI, if you would. Anybody volunteer to start?
So, Mitch, why don't I start the overall context of the partnership, what we've been doing from a telco standpoint over the last couple of years or 3 years, and then I'll hand it over to the experts to talk about what is how we're going to come together from a Gen AI perspective. So this partnership, Accenture and AWS, specific to telcos, is close to about 3 years now. We've come together predominantly to look at what are some of the innovative transformation use cases in this space, and how do we align both our organizations, both from a capability perspective and also from a technology standpoint, to deliver those outcomes, business outcomes for our customers. So this, we're focused on three key layers: data and AI as a domain, where we're bringing together transformative, innovative solutions, for the operators. The second bucket is a network transformation, where we're looking at how can we run NFVs better in the cloud, working with with Accenture and their capabilities around comms and media. And last but not the least is how do we bring together from a business application standpoint, what are some of those transformative use cases? So we've jointly announced, market launched telco as a service, along with several offerings, individual offerings, and have won some significant awards in the market. And also we work closely with the academia and the industry bodies developing thought leadership. So with that context, Gen AI, it's a really early piece for us, and we're excited to come together. So I'll pass it on to Davide and Ross to talk a little bit more about what our perspectives, what our individual perspectives are from a Gen AI standpoint, and then we'll try and bring the story together.
Thank you, Mohan. I think that nowadays the partnership between our two organizations has a long history, and AWS has been one of the main partner of us in all the technology implementation, especially in the cloud. There has been a major investment for Accenture in the past years, since we launched Cloud First years ago, with exact strategic intention of investing in that space. Right? So the relationship is strong and based on solid foundation. And now that this new wave of revamp, I would say, of generative AI, because to be honest, it's a technology that's been there for a while, but has been brought to the public attention by a series of events that happened in the past month. We are standing on the shoulder of giants, right? So we want to leverage already the strong position and collaboration that we had in the past years, exactly to pivot on this new technology. And we feel that it's a very compelling combination, because we can combine our industry knowledge from an Accenture standpoint and our proximity to customer and their pain points, and being one of the major partner in their digital transformation more in general, and therefore also in the leverage of AI, with the amazing portfolio of products that AWS can offer in this space, right? So it's a really complementary alliance that we believe can generate a lot of value for the customer. Did I say it right, Ross?
You did. I don't have to say anything there. No, I would just add to that. I think we, first off, we're super excited about the partnership with Accenture. We have got some really compelling go-to-market motions that we're planning and we'll be executing against very quickly. But I think broadly, just to kind of set the context of, certainly from the AWS perspective, we at Amazon have been integrating AI and ML into our business and operations for like 25 years, basically. So if you think about it, we've got a massive distribution, all of the forecasting, the predictions that go into delivering millions of packages within, in some cases, an hour, right? It's amazing how we actually do that. And ML is an integral part of that. And then I think that, from an operational perspective, security and privacy is a first principle at AWS. And our enterprise grade services are built from the ground up. and they are secure and they maintain data privacy. So this is top of mind and is beneficial for this partnership as we earn trust with our customers. And then, in generative AI in particular, we just released in March, April, Amazon Bedrock, which is our generative AI service. It's a managed service. You can think of it as foundation models as a service. And again, it's highly secure. Data never leaves the region you're served in. The data never hits the public internet. It's always encrypted, and none of the model providers can see that data. So we believe this is the easiest way to build and democratize generative AI. And ultimately, we do have a very strong focus on telcos within our industry business unit. So this really complements the Accenture knowledge and capabilities as well.
Very nice. My experience with partnerships are you both have to bring something unique to the table that the other one maybe has, but maybe primarily doesn't, and you're kind of better together. And that's what really gets that synergy and a great partnership together. As you think about what are the better together kinds of things that you have with both Accenture and AWS, and what's a little bit of the vision of what you want to do together in market?
Let me start there. We are investing massively in this space. We were among the first one creating a dedicated COE for that. We are embedding generative AI in all our internal Accenture processes. We're enabling our consultants in using this technology to their daily business, from preparing data points for a pitch to even creating a presentation for a client conversation, right? So we are trying to be our first customers of these new capabilities and technology, right? And I think the focus that we are giving is heavily on industry specialization. We believe that we have a strong experience in serving our customer, and CSP in particular. We've been leader as service provider in the CSP industry for now, I think, 15 years. We accompany our clients through their major CRM transformation first, BSS, OSS transformation first, now digital transformation. So we are a very reliable partner. And for a technology like this, that is new, it's not yet fully mature, has a lot of potential, but also a lot of risks and unknown. It's critical to have a partner that can provide reliability in delivery, that can transform something innovative into something enterprise grade, right? I was talking to a client literally last week, and he was telling me, working with you, the thing that I appreciated the most is that I can have hundreds of startups coming with a wow use case, and coming and say, I can crawl your website and give you all this magic, but there are very few players that can hold our hands and we deliver something. They do it end to end, including privacy, security, responsibility, value identification, change management, process redesign, right? Because this capability to be so pervasive and effective has to be adopted, has to be digested by human beings, has to be embedded in the systems, so has to be really integrated in the organization, right? And we believe this is also something that we can source from AWS, that is a product engineering company by culture, right? So which is exactly what we need to be completed in this offering for clients, because product is less our bread and butter, but enabled by all these foundational ingredients that go from the very bottom of the infrastructure to the very top of the application consumption. We feel that we have all the levers to actually achieve this value transformation for the clients.
Great. Ross or Mohan?
Yeah, David covered a lot of the kind of complementary areas. I think that if you think about what we're doing here, ultimately, these are transformations. So telcos are going through the transformation from, telco to techco, whatever you want to call it, digital transformation. But that's more than a technology play, right? It's not just here is a platform, a solution, and everything automatically just transforms. Beyond the technology, there's a people, process, culture component that needs to kind of drive that transformation in many cases. And I think that that area certainly is something where we lean on Accenture for, because they do have all of these capabilities. They are deeply embedded in a lot of those existing transformations. So I think the technology part that we bring, us very quickly inventing on behalf of our customers and iterating very quickly, means that we can bring that knowledge, equip Accenture with that knowledge, which in many cases, if you don't have a collaboration, they don't really have the insights, the roadmap, some of the kind of nuances of the capabilities and use cases. So I think bringing all that together, it's a very compelling story, and it's definitely a 1 + 1 = 10.
10, yeah, that's all. Yeah, so just to add to, great salient points. Just to add to that story, so if you look at how we are approaching the Gen AI, so we talk about the 3 layers. Mitch, we talk about the compute, and then we talk about the models, and then we talk about the applications, so to speak. So if we layer what Accenture brings to the table across all these 3 layers, I think we have the right mix of capabilities, right market approach, and more importantly, where I've seen this resonate really well with the clients, is the intentional strategic approach on how we join our resources together. So what we are doing on the compute front, how do we automate some of the stand-up of the cloud infrastructure through our Velocity program jointly? If you look at the models, obviously, Accenture has great capabilities, one of the largest leading capabilities from a model data scientist, perspective. So I think a lot of great resources, industry knowledge. We could really lever upon some of our partnerships and how we develop the foundation models and extend that to somewhat, customize that to the use cases for the operators. So there's great capability match there. And last but not the least, once the application, obviously, we have our set of applications that we're developing. Ross has been instrumental in some of those, Code Whisperer and the likes. But then, how do we take it beyond to customer churn and those type of use cases? I think having this strategic intent for Gen AI to be able to programmatically approach or intentionally approach this go-to-market together, I think I'm really excited about what we are in what the opportunity that we have ahead of us.
Amazing, great. You all are connecting with customers, talking to them all the time about their needs. I'm really interested about what is it in the telco industry that you see as you're hearing from customers, why they're talking to you about generative AI, and it's of interest in. You've all seen the demos. Maybe signed up for an OpenAI account and kind of played with it. But what are the real kind of needs that those businesses have that may even be unique to the telcos? You want to start out, David?
Yeah, let's begin from the starting point that this is an industry that doesn't have a lot of room for error, right? It's an industry that is under pressure, has been disrupted by some new technology players. In several countries, the core services are getting commoditized, so the margins are shrinking. So there is a lot of freedom in CapEx investment. Like every investment has to be very well thought, with clear ROI identified. And there is a lot of expectation for generative AI, primarily in 3 areas, right? First is in the cost optimization. The comms industry is an industry that has been heavily optimizing cost in the past 10 years. They largely reduced the cost to the point that we're probably thinking that they kind of reached the bone. Now generative AI gives a new space for optimization that wasn't much possible before. The second area is the hyper personalization. So having core products that are in the trajectory of getting commoditized, it becomes extremely relevant to improve the customer experience and to provide a very personalized set of offerings and interactions through any possible channel. So the intelligence to personalize at low cost with high effectiveness becomes critical. And the third area is the innovation in the product and service portfolio. The industry has to find a new way to generate revenue streams, literally invent new products, right? And being able to pivot on unique proprietary data to package new services that leverage AI is one element of high expectation for telcos as well, right? And it's probably the area more focused on growth and monetization, while the previous two are more focused on efficiency. Right? So also in this case, there is not much space to listen or interact with newbies or too much experimentation. Right? There is it has to be sharp, targeted, focused, possibly lowest risks possible. Because most of these companies are public, they have shareholders to take care of, right? So it's not it's a hard job, right? And that's where you need companies, organizations like us, like AWS, that are the most reliable partners you can work with, exactly to be sharp, targeted, and value oriented.
Very good. Ross Mohan, what are you hearing from the market, and specific to telco?
Yeah, I mean, we see that telcos are broadly at various stages of adoption, and that can be both in, investigating whether they can or should build their own foundation models or fine tune them, or what use cases should they really be focused on as they kind of venture into the adoption of generative AI. So that's kind of one area. Lots of different, depending who you speak to, there are different phases really, and some of that's driven by resourcing, and some of that's driven by some friction, some legal friction, frankly, with generative AI, and making sure that they've got guardrails in place to kind of mitigate any issues that may happen with the training data for let's say third-party models. And then we mentioned this before, but security is definitely top of mind. Again, none of them want their sensitive, valuable data to end up in the open internet. And tied to that is also responsible AI. So they are concerned about how these models are used. Are they helpful, harmless, and honest in their responses? These kind of things are really resonating with telcos. The other thing is, Davide said, is cost. So they want to reduce their own costs, but generative AI is incrementally more expensive than, let's call it, traditional ML. So what we're doing there is really helping our customers and manage that cost, and they're really loving our story around AWS Silicon with Inferentia and Trainium, which really increases that price performance. And because we're lowering that cost, it opens up a broader range of potential use cases to be economically viable for them. And then tied to that silicon is silicon shortage. We hear concerns that they're not going to get GPU capacity so they can actually build any of these Gen AI applications. So, this market is moving so quickly that if you wait 6 months to start your journey on generative AI, it's probably transformed by then, and you're going to be further behind. So they're loving the option to provision capacity for defined periods, right? So they can guarantee that availability and performance.
Yeah, well said. So just a couple of quick points from my perspective. I think when we talk to the customers, Mitch, to what Davide said about cost and new product development, and then having that hyper personalization, and then what Ross was talking about from a technology standpoint, I think, what we hear in the market is, do a really wonderful pilot, use case based pilot. We see the value of what it delivers, and the proof is there. But in terms of wider adoption of the technology on a production set of data, there is still a lot of hesitation, right? To the points both Davide and Ross mentioned. So I think hearing that feedback from the customers, what we are thinking in this partnership is, how do we address some of those MVP kind of points of view, right? So what are the use cases across these 3 buckets or 4 buckets? How do we position ourselves from taking that use case from ideation through to industrialization? How do we make that journey frictionless? What resources, investments, and also what kind of approaches can be jointly put in place to make that journey pretty seamless? I think these are the things that we are now seeing. It resonates really well with our joint customers. So yeah, it'll be interesting to really dig deep into some of those use cases and some of the approaches specifically around what is a proof of concept look like, how do you drive proof of value for total cost of ownership, how does the adoption journey look like, what are some of those operating models. I think it'll be awesome to dig a little bit deeper on those tangents.
Well, let's do that. I know you all have done some work together. I mean, this isn't just let's kind of sell our stuff to the market. You actually have some methodical process of getting the right experts together and thinking about customers and what the needs are and unique things are to telco, and identifying functional areas and use cases within that. And we're having a second part 2 of this webinar. We're going to talk more detail about the specific use cases. But for now, let's kind of talk about the areas of the business, the functional areas of the business that we think are most suited, and maybe a little bit about why those are relevant. You want to start with this, Ross?
Yeah. So I think we're seeing this in a lot of different areas. So if I kind of break it up into kind of domains, like you're saying. So one area which ties back to what Davide was saying about the fact that services are becoming commoditized, margins are shrinking. So developing new digital products and services is part of this journey to becoming a techco, right? So generative AI can really help with the ideation, design, and essentially building some of those new offerings for customers based on their needs, right? And this is a way for them to increase those revenue streams beyond connectivity. Then there's network side. So I think synthesizing improvements in the network, optimizing the network, reducing congestion, optimizing capacity, making sure networks stay up, so reducing the mean time to detect and repair those networks are key areas which our customers are super interested in, but probably need a little bit more help in actually understanding and rationalizing, because they are very complex areas. And then personalization. So hyper personalization, really getting down to the segment of one for both the offers that are made and the way that you actually communicate with the different customers in tone and content of the messaging. And then you also tied to cost savings is automation of one of the major cost centers, which is the contact center or customer care. So human-like AI chatbots, automating those interactions, helping agents with the interactions to reduce key metrics like average handle time, first call resolution. All of those are super important. We're seeing a lot of activity there. And then broadly, even tied to the first point, is this, telcos need to transform and become more innovative. So this becomes a kind of flywheel, if you like, because ultimately transformation ultimately comes from rapid iteration and experimentation, a fail fast mentality, if you like. So those are the things that we're really helping telcos with to meet their goals.
Great. Hey, David, jump in.
Yeah, no, I think Ross covered pretty much the full spectrum. Probably something that we can add is also the support in the IT department in particular for the journey to cloud and the digital transformation. Telcos have a lot of tech debt and stratified platforms, heavily customized in the course of the years, and in their journey to cloud, especially in transforming their data platform, they often get stuck because of reverse engineering and lack of documentation, which makes more painful the transition and delays the benefit that the moving your architecture on cloud would generate. And Gen AI is really a game changer in that space. If we had that type of technology, a couple of years ago, I can think of at least 2 or 3 good projects that would have gone way easier than they did, right? So that's a true game changer. So having the possibility of using generative AI to understand the code in the legacy platform, do the reverse engineering, translating into modern language or different protocols and applications, it's really helping accelerating the digital transformation, which is one of the ingredients to become an agile company able to quickly innovate and quickly iterate, because you have the systems that are fast and flexible enough to sustain that new way of operating.
Mohan, I know you've looked at this as well too. I mean, there's so many areas of the business. You mentioned call center, customer care, the heavy investment that goes into the network. It's one of the biggest assets and investment businesses you can be in, as well as bringing new products and services to market. How about your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think they've covered it really well. But I think what I'm also what we're also talking about in this partnership is the use cases drive the architectures, and therefore from the architecture, what we're really trying to give our operators, the operator clients, choice on what are some of those models they can use. How can we be prescriptive on what set of use cases required, what set of models, and what makes sense from as Ross put it, price performance perspective. So we want to take a thought leadership approach together on these use cases and how we present that to our clients. And the second thing is, as I mentioned earlier, it's about end-to-end approach, right? So how do we quickly get them from being talking about churn, network analytics or hyper personalization, and take that use case to really drive value, and how to measure the success. So in terms of what tools that Accenture has and what we AWS have, how do we put them together to help that journey much faster? So, I mean, in this partnership, the key is faster, cheaper, better, and we've always operated in this kind of construct. So, we're really looking. We really wanted to enable the operators with a key set of data, so they can make the decision from the use case down to how do you industrialize that, right?
Very good. One of the things I want to mention too, not everyone appreciates unless you're in telco, is the scale that you have to do things at. Both geographically scale in terms of volume coverage. You mentioned the startups showing up with great ideas, but oftentimes aren't able to scale. And that's part of the challenge we have with generative AI, that we can scale it and at a cost that's going to work for customer service or network operations and engineering.
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult combination because it's scale with the reliability. Telcos provide a business critical service. There's plenty of organization, public services, and lives, frankly speaking, that rely on a reliable, excuse me the repetition, a reliable connectivity with no downtime. So telcos are under a strong pressure in that sense, right? So every move they need to make always has to be compliant and compatible with a scale, but also a level of service that is, frankly speaking, not even expected, is demanded by several of the sectors that they serve.
Ross, AWS, I think you know a little bit about scale, but you also mentioned, of course you do, you also mentioned, you've been using AI ML for so many years. You don't get to where you are in one step. This has been a real investment and kind of building up that muscle, that strength that you have. Talk a little bit about how you think about scale and supporting something as large and as complex as a telco customer.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going beyond what Davide was saying about, being critical infrastructure, the scale is a challenge even for telcos historically. If you look back at infrastructure challenges with, big data and having on-premises, data store and data warehouses, it was very restrictive in what they could actually do because, you built for X capacity and then next year you've got X plus Y, and you're very restricted in incremental use cases and experimentation. So we've obviously seen a lot of benefit there in the ability to scale up, scale down as needed. And if you think about telcos, they actually have to build capacity to the optimal level that they may ever see and beyond, right? So they need to cater for the number of calls, on Christmas Day or Valentine's Day, plus 40%, right? So they always have to build out this massive capacity. So it's very compelling when you start talking about being able to scale with them in workloads like generative AI and big data, depending on the demand, time of day, time of year, and only paying for what you use. So that's, tying kind of scale to the price performance component is something that we certainly see our telco customers valuing.
Very good. I want to mention to everybody that the second part of the series where we are having is actually happening on December 4th, and we're going to be focusing in much more depth around the use cases and part of the work that you all done together to come up with what are those use cases you think were you want to start out in delivering value as soon as you can and implementing something like generative AI in that. That'll be happening on the 4th, but just as a lead in to that, Mohan, would you mind saying a little bit about the work that you've done together, coming together as Accenture and AWS, and the process you went through to think about how do you take this is setting to go into. Now let's talk about what we're going to do.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. Yeah, we came together. Both the teams came together in Milan. We ideated across many number of use cases. With what we are hearing from the market, from our perspective, from Accenture's point of view, and jointly what makes sense to better suit our strengths together in the market. We also took what we call the voice of the customer into the room, and we ran some of the feedback from them to hear what are some of those challenges they're facing. What would they like to see from our partnership to help them successfully adopt Gen AI and to really drive business value and outcomes. We then talked about the plethora of domains, and also very specifically around what those use cases within those domains and how do we prioritize them. And then we kind of walked that through to what you call market testing, the ideas where we had a lot of feedback internally and externally too. So I think, this kind of the process that we went through, and we're excited to present the outcome in the next webinar. And thanks for having the opportunity to read into that. I'll hand out to Davide and Ross. Any perspective on that?
No, I think you covered it well. I think we're going to have a chance to deep dive in some of these use cases, and devil's in the details. So I look forward to.
Yeah, and I think, look, any kind of AI is an experiment, right? And as we go through this, we're going to be experimenting with our customers, and they're going to have the confidence that the teams they're experimenting with from AWS and Accenture, have got deep domain knowledge, deep technology knowledge, and are going to be a very solid strategic partner as they go through this journey. So really becoming this strategic partner to guide them through the journey, I think, is a key part of what you're going to see as we start deploying these use cases right across the value chain.
Excellent. Well, let me remind folks again, December 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern time is when session part 2 of this conversation is going to be happening. We're going to be talking about the top use cases for generative AI in telco. Ross McWalter and David Bellini, Mohan Bhaskaran, thank you all for contributing to their conversation, setting the stage for, I'm sure, what a lot of people are thinking about. How do we tackle this? How do we take advantage of generative AI and AI in general? And how do we do it in a way that we can do it successfully, right? And experiment and learn quickly and bring this to market. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Cody and to wrap things up.
All right. Well, thank you, Mitch, and to the rest of our panel. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like Mitch said in the handouts, we do have a link to part 2 of our conversation, which is going to be held live on December 4th at 3 p.m. And that will be discussing some more specific use cases. So if you're here for part 1, you will not want to miss part 2. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we have recorded today's session, and it will be sent to you via email shortly after we conclude today. You can also find it living on the DevOps website at devops.com/webinars, and it will be in the on-demand section. I'd like to thank Accenture and AWS for sponsoring our program today. And to everyone here, thank you so much for attending. You'll notice pinned to the top of the chat is a link to a post-webinar survey, and we would love to hear your feedback. Or if you have any suggestions for future topics, just let us know there. Regardless, we do hope to see everyone at a future Techstrong learning experience. Have a great rest of your day, and you may now disconnect. Thanks again to our panel.